Hello students. The topic for today's lecture is Incorporation Documents as per the Companies Act 2013. So far we are now aware of what exactly is a company, what are the various types of companies which are available. So you are able to understand that whether you want to have a public company, a private company, a one-person company. Now is the stage to understand that what are the various incorporation documents which would be required to get the company registered under the Companies Act 2013. After going through this lecture, you will be able to understand the basic legal documents like Memorandum of Association and Articles of Association and what is their relevance and importance for the formation of a company. Let us start with the first important document, that is the Memorandum of Association. So a Memorandum of Association is the main document. It is just like a charter or constitution of the company. A Memorandum of Association governs the relationship of the company with the outside world. According to the technical definition given under the Companies Act, Section 2, subsection 56, memorandum means the memorandum of association of a company as originally framed or as altered from time to time in pursuance of any previous company law or of this act. So basically what they're trying to say is that if you follow the procedure as per given in the Companies Act, whether it is the Companies Act of 2013 or the 1956 Act, a document which is prepared in the prescribed form will be known as the Memorandum of Association. Moving on further, let us see. A Memorandum of Association is a document which will serve two main purposes. The first broad purpose is the intending investor, that is the people who wish to invest in a company, would like to know the activities in which their money would be invested by the company and what are the accompanying risks which are going to be involved with those investments. Therefore, the Memorandum of Association provides a protection to the shareholders and the other investors by ensuring that their money would be employed only for the purposes which have been enlisted in the object clause of the memorandum. Secondly, any person dealing with the company shall know without reasonable doubt whether the contractual relationship into which he contemplates entering with the company is one relating to the matter which comes within the corporate objectives of the particular corporate entity. There are various forms of Memorandum of Association. A company is free to adopt any of these particular forms which are given under the Companies Act, or they may also modify them and have their own Memorandum of Association. Let us quickly have a glance at these forms. So the Schedule 1 of the Companies Act gives you Form A to E which relate to the Memorandum of Association. As I just mentioned, these are the model formats. So the companies may adopt them in toto or they may also modify them as per their requirements. So as you can see, Table A refers to the model format for a Memorandum of Association of a company which is having its liability limited by share capital. Table B will talk about Memorandum of Association of a company limited by guarantee and not having share capital, and so on and so forth. Moving on further, a memorandum is a public document. When I say public document, we need to understand that anybody who wishes to interact with the company or wants to have any kind of a contractual relationship with the company can get an understanding of the document, that is the Memorandum of Association. So every person who deals with the company is presumed to have sufficient knowledge of its contents. It is open to public inspection. So a copy of the Memorandum of Association is readily available at the registered office of the company and is also available with the registrar of companies. These days, even these documents are also available on the website of company. A company, on being required by a member, is bound to supply him with a copy of its memorandum on payment of a fee of 1 rupee. The copy must be sent within a time frame of 7 days. Please remember, this right of obtaining a personal copy of Memorandum of Association is only available to a member of the company, not to any other person. And if a particular company defaults on this provision, then there is a penalty on the company which will be ranging from a per day fine of 1,000 rupees and can continue to 1 lakh rupee fine, whichever is less. There are certain requirements under the Companies Act regarding the Memorandum of Association as per Section 19. The Memorandum of Association must be printed, it must be divided into paragraphs, the paragraphs should be consecutively numbered. The Memorandum of Association also needs to be signed by the subscribers of the Memorandum of Association. When I say subscriber of a Memorandum of Association, we need to understand that the subscribers are the minimum number of members which are required to form a company. So in case of a public company, the subscribers will be the minimum 7 members, and in case of a private company, the subscribers to the Memorandum of Association will be the 2 minimum members. Moreover, there also needs to be a witness when the signature of the Memorandum of Association is being done by the subscribers. Then moving on further, we come on to the clauses of Memorandum of Association. So this is the main structure of our basic legal document. So as per Section 4 of the Companies Act, these are the major 6 clauses of Memorandum of Association. As you can see on the screen, we have the name clause, registered office clause, object clause, limited liability clause, capital clause, and association clause. Let us take them up one by one. So the first one in queue is the name clause. So as the name suggests, it is the name clause. In this clause, we are going to mention the name of the company. So when we are selecting the name of the company, we have to be very particular. Firstly, the name which we are selecting should not be easily resembling a name of already existing company, or the name should not be in the objectionable category. Let us see what the Act has to say in this regard. So the last words of the name must end with the words limited or private limited. As we all know that if the company has a limited liability, then automatically the name of the company will end with the words limited. So for example, ABC is a company, the liability is limited, the name of the company is going to be ABC Limited. If ABC is a private company, then the name becomes ABC Private Limited. If it is a case of a one-person company, then a company will also have to attach or affix the word OPC. So if ABC is an OPC company, the name of the company will appear as ABC, and in the bracket you will have OPC, so that anybody dealing with the company has a clear understanding that this is a one-person company. Moreover, as per Section 4, subsection 2, no company can be registered with a name which in the opinion of the central government is undesirable. So, undesirable here means that if a name is identical with or closely resembles the name of an existing company or LLP, or is not indicative of the objectives of the company, it may be deemed to be under the undesirable category. Let us refer to a case. This is a very prominent case related to this. Ewing versus Buttercup Margarine Company Limited, 1917. In this case, what happened was that the plaintiff was carrying on a business. The name of the company was Buttercup Dairy Company. And the defendant company here formed a new company. The name of the company was Buttercup Margarine Company. Now here you can see that the 2 words are closely identical. That is the Buttercup. Plaintiff here brought about an action against the new company that they are using the name of an already existing company which is registered, and they asked for restraining the new company to use an identical name, because the names here basically give an impression to anybody dealing with the company that both the companies are connected or closely connected in the terms of business with each other, which was not the case here. Therefore, the court restrained the new company from using this particular name. Moving on, there is another case law which we would like to discuss. This is the case of Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders Limited versus Motor Manufacturers and Trader Mutual Assurance Limited, 1925. Now, if you look at the name of this case itself, there are a few words in the name which are closely resembling each other. So you have motor, you have manufacturer, and you have traders. But what happened in this case is, as you can see on the screen also, here the 2 companies were allowed to continue with the same kind of a name. Why? Because the nature of the business of 2 companies was very different from each other. The companies were not connected, neither they were associated with each other. Therefore, the court held that they were allowed to use the name because one here in this case was the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders Limited was a company which was different from Motor Manufacturers and Traders Mutual Assurance Company. One was an insurance company and one was a welfare company of the workers of that particular company. So the both companies were allowed to continue with the similar kind of names. The third provision which is there as per the name clause is that the names adopted by the company should not violate the provisions of the Emblems and Name Protection of Improper Use Act 1950. So in example to this, it has been explained that no company or LLP can be registered with the words national as a part of its title unless they have a specific permission by the government where they are involving the stake of either the central and state government. Similarly, the names cannot include the words like such as national, union, central, president, Rashtrapati, so on and so forth without the prior permission or approval of central government, because these names or these words in the name of the company basically denote some kind of government association with the company. Moving on, the name of the company should not include the words cooperative, Sehkari, bank, stock exchange, venture capital, asset management, mutual fund, insurance, investment, and so on and so forth, until they have a prior permission of regulatory bodies like RBI, SEBI, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, etc. And the words of the name of the company should not be offensive to any section of the people. Moreover, no company can be incorporated using the name of an enemy country. Let us move further. So the second clause is the situation or domicile clause or the registered office clause. Now when we say situation clause, basically here we are talking about the clause of the memorandum of association, which is going to mention the place where the registered office of the company is going to be situated. That is the state of India in which the registered office of the company is going to be situated. I would like to make it very clear that when we are mentioning the place as a registered office in the registered office clause, it does not necessarily mean that the company carries on its entire operations at that place of registered office. The idea of having a registered office clause is that the registered office is going to be the prime place of communication with the company. So for example, if the court wants to send a particular kind of a notice to the company, or the tribunal or the registrar of company wants to send any kind of a notice, that notice is directly sent to the registered office of the company. So it is the registered office where the company's statutory books are normally kept and to which notices and other communications can be sent. Section 12 of the Companies Act provides that a company must have its registered office within 30 days of incorporation. For this, the company needs to fill form INC 22 along with the prescribed fees, and they also need to attach the necessary documents to show that the registered office belongs to the company. So in that case, you can attach a title deed of the premises or a notarized copy of the lease agreement or electricity bill or water bills, etc., whatever is in the name of the company. If there is any change in the registered office, then that also needs to be intimated to the registrar of companies within the 30 days. And again, the form is to be filled, that is INC 22. Please remember, as I had mentioned in my earlier lectures also, that these forms are all available online in e-form on the Ministry of Corporate Affairs website. The next is the object clause. This is the most important clause of the Memorandum of Association, because as we had mentioned in our earlier slides also, that the basic purpose of having a Memorandum of Association is you want to make it clear to the outside world what is the objective of the company, what is the vision, what is the mission, what is the company's outcome out of its efforts. So this is the clause which is going to explain that where the company is going to be investing, where is it going, what are going to be its output out of the investments available to the company. And a company which does anything beyond its objectives are termed as ultra vires act. That means these are the acts which are beyond the powers of the company, which we are going to be covering in the subsequent slides. So, importance of having object clause, there are three categories under which we have segregated this. So, if we talk about shareholders, it offers protection to the shareholders, ensuring that the funds which have been raised for one undertaking are not going to be risked in another. Secondly, if we talk about the creditor, it also provides them a protection. And thirdly, it serves public interest because the object clause has the effect of confining corporate activities within a defined field. Next is the liability clause. So the liability clause states the nature of the liability of the members. In the earlier lectures, we have already covered that a company may be a limited liability company, it may be an unlimited liability company. If it is having limited liability, then the liability can also be limited in terms of share capital. It can also be limited in terms of guarantee. So it can be either in terms of share capital or either in terms of guarantee or even both. Whatever is the case needs to be mentioned in this clause, which is the liability clause. And according to section 4 subsection 1 clause D, in case a company with a limited liability, it must state whether the liability of the members is limited by shares or by guarantee. An unlimited company need not have a liability clause in the memorandum of association. So the absence of this clause in the memorandum of association is actually an indication that the company is having unlimited liability. The next is the capital clause. The capital clause will state the amount of share capital which the company is registered with. And when we are saying that we are going to state the share capital, so we need to give the total amount of share capital the company has with the clear amount of denomination in terms of the types of shares you have, whether you have equity shares or preference shares, how many are equity, how many are preference, what is the number, what is the percentage, and so on and so forth. Then we have the association clause, again the most important part of a memorandum of association. So if you see, the name itself is memorandum of association. So this is the clause where basically the subscribers to the memorandum of association are going to give a declaration that whatever is mentioned in the memorandum of association is true and a fair view. So basically the memorandum of association needs to be signed by at least 7 persons in case of a public company, and by at least 2 persons in case of a private company, and if it is a case of OPC, then it is 1 person. And the signature of the subscribers is going to be in the presence of one witness, at least one witness. Each subscriber must at least take 1 share and must write opposite his name or her name the number of shares he or she has taken in the company. Now, so once we have an understanding of what are the various clauses of the memorandum of association, there arises an obvious question that if there is any kind of changes which we make, for example, we want to change the name of the company or where we want to shift our registered office, then what do we do? So that is the situation which is known as alteration of your articles, alteration of the memorandum of association. So now, since we have seen that the memorandum of association is a document which deals with the company's relationship with the outside world, so the company cannot be allowed to do any kind of alteration suddenly or in their own way or in their own whims and fancies. It has to be done in a prescribed format, and that prescribed format and way has been laid down under section 13 of the Companies Act. So no alteration shall have any effect unless registered with the registrar. So the getting any kind of changes made and then getting it communicated to the registrar and getting a fresh certificate of incorporation is important to give effect to any kind of alteration. So let us see how this alteration is going to happen. So first, looking at alteration of the name clause. So alteration of name clause basically means we want to change the name of the company. Now there are certain ways under this. The first is change of name by special resolution. So according to section 13 subsection 2, the name of the company can be changed any time by passing a special resolution. That means if the shareholders want any kind of a change, they may discuss the fact in the general meeting and pass a special resolution and get the approval of the central government. For that, you just have to fill the form run, which is known as reserve unique name form. But a change of name which merely involves any kind of a deletion or addition of the word private on the conversion of a public company into a private or vice versa does not require the approval of central government. Then we have a situation where there is known as change of name not allowed. So your rule 29 of Companies Incorporation Rule 2014 makes it very clear that the change of name shall not be allowed to a company which has not filed annual returns or financial statements which were due for filing with the registrar of companies, or which has failed to pay or repay matured deposits or debentures or interest thereon. Then you have change of name by ordinary resolution. Section 16 subsection 1 says that if through inadvertence, that is basically due where you are unaware or which has happened without your knowledge, a company gets registered with a name which is the opinion of the central government is identical with or too closely resembles the name of existing company, then the central government or the regional director shall direct it to change its name within 3 months of issuing such directions by passing an ordinary resolution. And this provision is for the name of the company. Similarly, you have the provision for trademarks also. So if the trademark also closely resembles or is closely identical to the one which is already there of an existing company, then the time which is given is 6 months. Now this is something new which has come up as per Rule 33A inserted by the Companies Incorporation 5th Amendment Rule 2021. If name is not changed within 3 months, so what I just explained was that if the name is closely identical or is one which closely resembles the name of an existing company and you have been given a time of 3 months to do that and you don't do it, then what happens by default is that from the date of issue of such direction, the ROC will change the name as follows. So this is the order of the change: ORDNC, YYY, XXX, and this number. So here ORDNC means Order of Regional Director not complied. So it's a very clear indication that you had been given an order to change the name of the company within 3 months, which you have not done. Year of passing of that direction, right? So for example, the year has been passed in the 2024, the serial number of that particular order, and this is the existing corporate identity number, which is known as SIN. So which I had already explained that nowadays all corporate entities have an identity number which is known as SIN. So you will have ORDNC 2024, then the serial number of that particular order, and then the SIN of that particular company. So the registrar shall accordingly make entry of the new name in the register of companies and issue a fresh certificate of incorporation in the form INC 11C. Then we have alteration of registered office clause. This may include the change of registered office from the present premises to another, which includes within the city limits, from one city to another city within the same state, and from one state to another. Now what we need to understand is that when in the first two cases, which is within the city limits and from one city to another within the same state, we are not changing the state. And as I had mentioned in my earlier slides also, registered office clause basically mentions the state in which the registered office of the company is situated. So for example, we say that the registered office is situated in the state of Maharashtra. Now if I am changing my place of business, which does not involve the change of state, then that will not have any effect on my registered office clause. You simply have to make a change in the address. So here what I written is change within the same state does not involve any alteration in the memorandum of association, because in the registered office clause of MOA, it is only the name of the state that is mentioned and not the address of the registered office. Therefore, it is the change in the registered office from one state to another that involves the alteration in memorandum of association. So the first category was change within the same city. So for example, we are in the city of New Delhi. We are shifting the registered office from, for example, from Defence Colony to Lodi Road, right? So in that case, what the company is required to do is they are going to pass a resolution in the board of directors meeting, and a notice of the change is to be filed within 30 days of the change with the registrar. The second case was change from one city to another within the same state. So for example, we are in the state of Gujarat. Earlier, the registered office was in Baroda. Now you want to shift it to Surat. So the state remains the same. The state is same of Gujarat. So then, in that case, the company is going to pass a special resolution in the general meeting. The second is they will require a confirmation of the regional director, which is known as RD. This happens only in the case of Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra, which we have covered earlier also, because these are the two states in which in the same state there are two offices of the registrar of a company. So along with that, in the form INC 23, there is a prescribed fees and there are certain documents which need to be attached, like the resolution of the board members, resolution of the shareholders, a declaration given by the KMPs or any other two directors authorized by the board that the company has not defaulted in the payment of its dues or of its workers, and has the consent of the creditors for the proposed shifting, whichever is necessary. A declaration not to seek change in the jurisdiction of the court where the cases for prosecution are pending. So, for example, if you have any kind of matters which are pending, you don't want it to be shifted. Acknowledgement copy of the intimation of the Chief Secretary of the State as to the proposed shifting and that the employees interested is not affected adversely consequently to the proposed change. If all the above rules have been complied with, then within 30 days of receiving the application for change, the regional director should have sent his confirmation, and confirmation by the regional director is to be filed with the ROC within 60 days. And the notice of the new location must be given to the ROC within 30 days of the change. If any of the provisions are not followed, then there is a penalty of 1000 rupees per day, which will not be exceeding 1 lakh rupees. What is most important is change of register from one state to another. So for example, we are in the state of Gujarat and now we want to shift our registered office to the state of Kolkata. So in that case, what is going to happen is section 13 subsection 4 says that you will need a special resolution. You will also need a confirmation by the central government, and there shall be a list of documents which are going to be attached with this application. That includes the list of the creditors and debenture holders, and affidavit also to verify the list of the creditors so that none of the creditors have been left with, a copy of acknowledgement of the application filed by the registrar and chief secretary. The company shall at least 30 days before the date of filing application in the form INC. So before you start this process, you are supposed to do this preliminary work. What is that? You need to advertise in form 26 in a vernacular and an English newspaper with wide circulation in state in which the registered office of the company is situated about the proposed change in the registered office. So in the newspaper, there's going to be an advertisement that we are shifting a registered office from Gujarat to Kolkata. Serve by registered post with acknowledgement due, individual notices on each debenture holder and creditors of the company, as well as to the registrar and to the SEBI in case of listed companies. A copy of any objection. So out of this, if you have sent notices and you receive any objection, then an objection. So now there can be two situations where no objection is received and where an objection is received. So if you don't receive an objection, order shall be passed within 15 days of the date of application. So as soon as you apply, within 15 days, you will get a order. But where an objection is received, so then the central government shall hold a hearing and direct the company to file an affidavit to record the consensus reached at the meeting. So unless and until you have no objection, you cannot proceed further. Now, if we are in the second category, that is where an objection is received, then what we require is consensus. So if consensus is reached in favor of shifting, then the central government shall pass an order approving the shifting within 60 days of filing. Where no consensus is reached at hearing the company, then the company shall file an affidavit specifying the manner in which the objection is to be resolved within a limited time frame, upon execution of which the central government shall pass an order confirming or rejecting the alteration with 60 days of filing of the application. The copy of the central government order to be filed with the registrar in form INC 28 within 30 days of the receipt of such order, and the registrar of the state where the registered office is being shifted to shall then issue a fresh certificate of incorporation indicating the alteration. Next is the change of object clause. Now, if you want to change the objectives of the company, then a special resolution of the shareholder has to be passed. Uh, Here in the bracket we have written is by means of postal ballot, which we will be covering here is that in section 110, which we refer to postal ballot, has now been amended by the Companies Amendment Act 2017. It provides that any item of business required to be transacted by means of postal ballot may be now be done at general meeting through the facility of electronic voting. Okay, so a copy of the special resolution and a printed copy of the altered memorandum is to be filed with the registrar within 1 month, and the registrar will register the documents and issue a fresh certificate of incorporation. Now, the question arises is that we have said that the object clause is very important because it is specifying the objectives of the company, and we also said that it has importance for the investors, it has importance for the creditors because they have a clarity of where the company is going to invest. Now, if suddenly the company is planning to change those objectives, what will happen that the people who had invested in the company do not agree with the change in objectives. So for that, there are certain special provisions which have been made under the Companies Act 2013, wherein there is also an option to exit the company for the minority shareholders who do not agree with any kind of change in the objectives for which the capital was raised through the through the public issue. So this is the category change of object for which money is raised through prospectus. So passing of a special resolution and filing a copy of the same with ROC within 30 days. An advertisement is given in the newspaper and it is also put on the website of the company. And there is opportunity to exit for dissenting shareholders. So those shareholders who think that they don't feel that their money should be invested in the change objective of the company, they have an option to exit the company. Next is change in the liability clause. The liability of a member of a company cannot be increased unless the member gives his consent in writing to the same, either before or after the alteration. However, whether the company is a club or a similar association, an alteration in its memorandum which requires the members to pay a higher subscription or membership fee shall be binding upon the members even though they may not have given their consent in writing to the same. The liability of a director of a company can be unlimited if, firstly, the articles of association allow it. Secondly, a special resolution is passed for the same and filing of a copy of the same with the registrar within 30 days. And thirdly, the concerned person should have given his consent in writing for the same. Shareholders of an unlimited liability company can also make their liabilities limited or reduced by re-registration of the company. Please remember the term is re-registration. That means entire formalities for the formation or registration of the company will have to be redone. Then we have alteration of capital clause. So you have alteration, or there are three ways of alteration of share capital. Alteration of share capital section 61, or reduction of share capital section 66, and variation of rights of shareholders section 48. Let us look at them one by one. So firstly is alteration of share capital. A limited company may, if so authorized by its articles, alter its capital in the following ways. It can increase its authorized share capital. It can consolidate and divide all or any of its share capital into shares of larger number. Similarly, they can also subdivide its shares of smaller amounts, convert all or any of its fully paid up shares into stock or vice versa, and cancel shares, which is known as diminution of capital. The second category was reduction of share capital. There are three ways in which reduction of capital can be done. It may extinguish or reduce the liability or any of its shares in respect of share capital not paid up or uncalled capital. So, for example, the company had raised 10 share capital wherein the face value of the share was 10 rupees, and the company has called up 7 rupees and that has been paid up by all the shareholders. 3 rupees has not yet been called by the company. In this case, the company may realize that they do not require now that 3 rupees. They are sufficient having the amount of 7 rupees. Then in that case, the company can reduce or extinguish the liability of the shareholders by making that 10 rupees share as 7 rupees shares fully paid up. The second category is it may either with or without extinguishing liability on any of its shares cancel any paid up share capital which is lost or unrepresented by available assets. And thirdly, it may either with or without extinguishing or reducing liability on any of its shares, pay off any paid up share capital which is in excess of the wants of the company. Now, we need to understand that a reduction of share capital involves in a decrease in the available funds with the company. Therefore, the companies cannot do the reduction of share capital as and when they feel like. There is a set procedure which needs to be followed, which has been given under Section 66 of the Companies Act. The third form is variation of the rights of the shareholder, Section 48. We all know that the shareholders have rights in terms of the voting power in the company and in terms of dividend which is available. So if a company has issued different classes of shares which enjoy different voting rights, then any change in the right of one of the shareholders may prejudice another class of shareholders. Therefore, the procedure laid down in Section 48 must be followed. What is that procedure? You need permission of memorandum and articles of association. A special resolution has to be passed, and if variation or by one class of shareholder affects the right of another class of shareholder, then you also require the consent of 3/4 of such class of shareholder. And to ensure that the entire system is very transparent, the act has also given certain rights of dissenting shareholder, that is those shareholders who do not agree with this variation in the right of shareholder. They have been given certain rights under Section 48 subsection 2. The second document is Articles of Association, which we were talking about. So very quickly looking at this document, the Article of Association contains the rules, regulations and bylaws for the internal administration of the company. Articles defines the powers of the directors and other officers of the company. Articles also governs the relationship between the company and its constituent members by prescribing the rights and obligations of the members. Contents of the Articles of Association, what all the Articles of Association may contain. This list is not exhaustive. You can have, the companies may have all of these, they may have few of them, they may have many of them. Some of them are transfer of shares, transmission, forfeiture, buyback, procedure of general meetings, provisions regarding proxy, board of director accounts, winding up, indemnity, so on and so forth. Just like we had forms of memorandum of association, we also have model formats of articles of association. So your schedule 1 of the Companies Act 2013, table F to J gives the model formats of articles of association. Let's quickly view them. So table F is the article of association of company limited by shares. G is for company limited by guarantee and having share capital. H is for a company limited by guarantee not having share capital, and so on and so forth. I will repeat as I said before. These are the model formats. The company may adopt them in totality. They may also modify and keep them as per their own requirements. This is something new which has come under the Companies Act 2013, which was not there as per the earlier Companies Act, which is known as entrenchment clause. The provisions regarding entrenchment clause are given under Section 5, subsection 3 of the Companies Act. And the articles of association, if they have an entrenchment clause, then apart from passing a special resolution in the meeting of the shareholders for any kind of alteration in the articles of association, certain special conditions which may be attached by the company will also have to be followed. Here what we need to remember is that since we have said that the articles of association are our internal rule books, it governs the internal functioning of the company as compared to the memorandum of association, which governs the relationship of the company with the outside world. The alteration of articles of association is a statutory right which is available to the company. When I say it is a statutory right, that means the company can make changes, can alter its articles of association as and when they want by simply passing a special resolution. Whereas we have just seen that in case of a memorandum of association, for each clause of memorandum of association, there is a different procedure. Somewhere you need the permission of central government, somewhere you may require the permission of the RD, so on and so forth. So articles of association simply require a passing of a special resolution. Only those companies in which articles of association have an entrenchment clause will require the fulfillment of certain special conditions which the company fixes for alteration apart from passing of your special resolution. Then you have, just like memorandum, you also have signature of article of association. The articles of association will also have to be divided into paragraphs, consecutively numbered, and will have to be signed by the subscribers. The subscribers remain the same, 7 in case of a public company and minimum 2 in case of a private company. And the signatures by the subscribers have to be done in the presence of at least one witness. What is the relationship between the two documents, that is, which we have done, that is memorandum and articles? It is very important to understand. The articles of a company are subordinate to and controlled by the memorandum of association, which is considered to be a dominant instrument and contain general constitution of the company. Memorandum and articles are always to be read together, and if there is any kind of ambiguity or uncertainty in any one of the documents, it has to be removed by reference to another. So when we say that is to be removed in reference, then if there is any conflict between the two documents, whatever is written in the memorandum will be upheld. The memorandum defines the company's objects and various powers it possesses, whereas the article determines how these powers are exercised. And lastly, the memorandum can be altered only under certain special circumstances provided by the Act, as we have just discussed. But the articles are only internal regulations over which the company may have full control and may alter them according to what they think fit. Thank you. Any questions?